Today, we're going to deconstruct a federal contract that, on the surface, looks like a golden opportunity. But as we'll see, it's actually riddled with hidden risks. We're going to peel back the layers and show you how a winning bid can turn into a losing proposition real fast if you don't know what to look for.
All right, so let's set the scene. Our case study is a Department of Veterans Affairs project. It's for upgrading network and electrical systems. It's a firm fixed-price contract, and it's set aside 100% for a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, or SDVOSB. Seems perfect, right? A great opportunity. But the very first clue that something's off is hidden in just a single number.
And that number is 75 out of 100. That's the contract's cyber complexity score. Now, you might be thinking, this is a construction and wiring job, why is the cyber score so high? And that's exactly the right question to ask. A score this high is a massive red flag. It tells you this project is way more complicated than it looks. So what even is this score? Well, the ACT-IAC Cyber Complexity Score is a new way the government is trying to flag supply chain and cyber risks right in the solicitation. A high score, like 75, means this isn't just about pulling wires. It's about securing sensitive data, dealing with complex digital systems, and navigating a whole world of cyber compliance. Okay, first up, let's talk about the money. We're calling this section the margin mirage, because on a fixed-price job like this one, the profit you think you see can, well, evaporate into thin air if you're not careful. The whole problem really boils down to this one question. You see, on a firm fixed-price contract, you agree to do the job for a set amount. That's it. But what do you do when a huge part of the job is completely undefined? You're basically being asked to sign a blank check and hope for the best.
And here's a perfect example of that blank check. The contract says you have to replace 100% of existing non-code compliant cloth-wrapped wiring. Okay? But how much is that? Are we talking about 100 feet, 1,000 feet, 10,000? The contract doesn't say, and if you can't quantify it, you can't price it accurately.
This really just says it all. You, the prime contractor, are taking on all the financial risk for a totally unknown amount of work. The only smart move here is to stop, submit a request for information, an RFI, and ask the contracting officer for a baseline. Give us a number, an estimate, something to bid on. And believe me, it's not just the wiring. The contract also casually mentions things like asbestos and lead paint. Dealing with hazardous materials is always expensive, and when you add in the strict Level 2 containment requirements, well, you can just watch your profit margin shrink with every unpredictable cost.
So beyond the financial traps, you've got these supply chain landmines. These are things that can get your bid thrown out before you even get started. Let's dig into those.
We call these hard disqualification gates, and that's exactly what they are. These aren't minor issues you can fix later. If you fail to meet these specific requirements, your proposal gets tossed. It's deemed non-responsive, you're out of the game, period.
A really big one is the absolute ban on using equipment from certain foreign companies, which is mandated by law. This list includes some pretty big names, right? Huawei, ZTE, Hikvision. You cannot, under any circumstances, have their products anywhere in your supply chain for this project.
And this isn't just some abstract rule. This contract specifically calls for new security cameras, access control readers, and IT panels. That means your bill of materials has to be scrubbed clean. You have to vet every single component to make sure it's compliant. Now for another huge technical hurdle. It's called FIPS 143. Basically, any system that's going to handle sensitive VA info has to use encryption that meets this really high federal standard. It's all about top-tier cryptographic security.
And here's where a lot of companies get tripped up. Many cloud providers and IT products are certified to the older standard, FIPS 140-2, but this contract requires the newer, tougher 140-3. Making that jump is a major technical and financial challenge. It's an easy thing to miss, and it's an instant disqualifier.
Okay, let's switch gears and look at a risk that's tied directly to this contract's identity as an SDVOSB set-aside. This comes with its own special set of rules, its own gauntlet that you have to run.
This chart shows the core rule in a nutshell. For a general construction job like this, you, the prime SDVOSB contractor, have to perform at least 15% of the work with your own people. You can't just win the contract and then subcontract the whole thing out.
And here's the actual language from the VA's own rulebook. It's crystal clear. You can't pay more than 85% of the contract value to subs that aren't also certified SDVOSBs.
That means you have to think about your teaming strategy right from the very beginning.
Now, see that word deviation on the slide? Pay close attention to that. It's a huge warning sign. It means the VA has its own special flavor of the standard Small Business Administration rules. You can't just assume you know how it works. You have to read the VA's specific deviated rule and comply with that. So, after all these risks, financial, supply chain, regulatory, you might be wondering if this contract is just a poison chalice. Well, not necessarily. The key is to stop thinking reactively and start being proactive. You can actually turn these hurdles into a real competitive advantage.
Think about it this way. A reactive bidder just tries to meet the bare minimums. They check the boxes and just hope for the best. But a proactive bidder, they use these complex requirements to prove they're better. They show superior risk management. They don't just comply, they use compliance to set themselves apart from the competition.
So how do you do that? One of the best tools in your arsenal is something called an SBOM, or a software bill of materials. The easiest way to think about it is like an ingredients list, but for software. It tells you every single component, every library that's inside the firmware of the devices you're installing.
Now, here's the kicker. The solicitation doesn't even ask for an SBMM, but providing one anyway, that is a powerhouse strategic move. It shows the VA that you're not just playing by the rules, you're a step ahead. You're actively managing your supply chain all the way down to the code.
So let's just boil all this down into an actionable 5-step strategy. 1. Quantify what's unquantified. Ask questions. 2. Vet your entire bill of materials for those banned parts. 3. Verify all your tech is up to that FIPS 143 standard. 4. Structure your team to crush that 15% self-performance rule. And 5. Differentiate yourself. Go the extra mile and provide those SBOMs.
And this really brings us to the final critical question you have to ask yourself before you bid on any contract like this. Is your strategy just built on hope? Are you just crossing your fingers that you've covered all the bases? Or have you built a strategy based on a deep, intelligent analysis of every single risk hidden in that document? Because honestly, the answer to that question is the difference between a profitable project and a very, very costly mistake.